Ang podcast nito ay powered ng Anchor.fm, ang pinakamadaling paraan para makapag-upload at makapag-distribute kayo ng podcast sa iba't ibang platforms. With that out of the picture, let's start the show. Welcome mga dudes tsaka mga dudettes. Ito na naman si Kevin ng Elitistang Weeboo podcast sa isa na namang episode na recorded dito sa Justice Open Studio. So, wala ako ngayon dun sa upuang na pinupwestohan ko dahil may tubig, dahil kakaulan lang dito. So, actually nakatayo ako dito sa malapit sa swing. Hindi na makaupo sa swing dahil basa yung swing. This day sucks to tell about it. Pero at least hindi mainit. So that's something to be happy for. And of course, makakapag-recording ako kahit medyo makulimlim. Sana hindi umulan bago ko matapos ang recording na to. And that's it. Pero kamusta ba tayong lahat? Sana nasa mabuti kayong kalagayan. Umiinom kayo ng kape, nag-work at home, or relaxing on your rest day. Ako, ano bang ginawa ko nito mga nagdaang araw? Ayun, na-upload ko na yung episode 11, which is yung pinakaunang episode na may guest tayo at hindi basta-basta yung guest natin. That's Tito P or si Tito Pidge, ang techie tito na kukumpleto sa Macho Trinity mula sa longest running comedy podcast sa buong Pilipinas. Sana napakinggan niyo yung episode na yun dahil sobrang nag-enjoy ako sa recording nun kahit may konting hiccups. Pero yun, so again, Tito P, thank you sa pagdalaw at pagbisita at pakikigulo sa podcast na to. Sana talaga maulit-ulit yun, no? And sana kasama ko na yung dalawa, si Bakoy tsaka si Ingo. Pero most likely pag kami ni Ingo yung nag-usap, baka hentai lang yung pag-usapan namin. So, eto, ano ba yung mga bago-bago sa atin? So, ayun, One Piece 100 Volume 100 is out sa Japan. So wala pang translated na version nun, but I'm looking forward of getting it. So ang kulang ko na lang sa collection ko, kasi nagsimula ako magbasa mag-ipon ng manga from volume 90 or 89. So from volume 90 hanggang sa volume 96 meron ako. Wala akong volume 95. Hindi ko alam kung bakit wala yung fully book. So sana fully book. Sunod na dumaan ako sa inyo, may volume 95 na ng One Piece, and looking forward of getting the succeeding volumes and the old volumes as well para kumpleto na yung One Piece manga collection ko. So ayun, pinapanood again, ano ba? Yun. Actually, mostly manga ang kinokonsume ko ngayon. Shoutout sa Sakamoto Days. Isa siya sa pinaka-paborito kong binabasa na manga ngayon. So, para siyang John Wick na para siyang John Wick na ginawa mong mataba. So, yun yung pinaka-premise niya. So, dati siyang assassin na lumagay sa tahimik nung na-in love. Tapos may-ari na lang siya ng convenience store. Tapos basta ang daming magagandang nangyayari sa manga na yun. Sana magkaroon siya ng ng anime adaptation para masaya ang lahat. And speaking of masaya ang lahat, so Getter-Robo Arc, yung final manga ni Ken Ishikawa na hindi niya natapos because unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but Gonaga, yung collaborator niya with Getter-Robo, made an adaptation ng Getter-Robo Arc, which is yung final saga ng Getter story, yung main na Getter story. So tonight ipapalabas yung episode 12, which is kung saan natapos yung manga, and next week episode 13 is gonna be yung, I hope may notes naman si Ken Ishikawa on how the series will end, but most likely it's most likely an ending na more into the Gonagai alleyway. So I'm excited to to watch the last 2 episodes ng Get the Robo arc, and maybe magkakaroon tayo ng episode in regards to the Get the Robo saga. So look forward for that. So with those out of the picture, ano bang topic natin ngayon? So isa to sa mga paborito kong topics na pag-usapan with my friends. Medyo niche siya kasi iilan lang naman yung medyo into this type of genre sa Japanese entertainment. Isa siya sa pinakamalaking genre sa Japanese entertainment, and that's the Tokusatsu. So Tokusatsu, if you're not so familiar of it, Tokusatsu, or Toku for short, is a term being used for live action special effects. Contraction siya ng original term na Tokushu Satsue, which basically means special photography. So yung madalas natin nakikita na live action special effects is Tokusatsu. So basically it's the whole term it's a term to describe those types of effects are. So Japan, being Japan, is one of the countries na nag-proliferate yung mga ganitong special techniques on filming and whatnot. So let's dig into the history of Tokusatsu and some of the biggest series franchises na nagsimula from this big umbrella of shows and movies. So yan nga, sa Japan, Tokusatsu means special photography, special effects. Yun yung mga explosions, miniatures, suitmations, or actions with suits and miniatures of cities and whatnot. So yung roots niya could be traced to Kabuki, the Kabuki theater, because may action scenes in Kabuki, and also you could consider the Bunraku, o yung life-size puppetry theater, as somewhat a progenitor or a prototype of the Tokusatsu. So flash forward tayo into the 50s. Eiji Tsubaraya and Ishiro Honda make a mark the start, or made the start for the modern interpretation, or kung ano yung interpretation natin, or kung ano yung Tokusatsu in a modern sense, with Godzilla. So Godzilla is considered the first of the modern Tokusatsu. It has suitmation, miniatures, special effects, explosions, and whatnot. So with 1954 Godzilla, so actually inspired sila by King Kong back in the 30s or the 40s. So King Kong is also considered a Tokusatsu in some sense, dahil gumagamit sila ng special techniques to put something na wala naman talaga, or something na hindi totoo, o onto a screen. Nakikita mo siya, nakakapa siya ng ilan, and or na ano sila, nararamdaman mo sila through acting of the actors. So fast forward 1957, so Godzilla, then Godzilla Strikes Back, or Raids Again, yung sumunod na movie. So another giant movie na ginawa onto the Japanese cinemas, 1957. It's Super Giant. It's basically a giant din siya, or it's a giant monster, or a giant superhero monster. So after that, parang nagkaroon na ng shift na, and also that's the year kung kailan lumabas yung Astro Boy. So superhero and giant monsters is now the trend with Japanese entertainment. So dun sila nag-focus after nung 1957, then 1958 we had our first TV tokusatsu or yung first TV superhero sa Japan, which is Gecko Kamen. So, yun. So basically those from the 50s, the 57s, the 58s and whatnot, those particular types of shows are in black and white. So jump ulit tayo into 1966. Another manga made by Osamu Tezuka was made into a tokusatsu live action show. That's Ambassador Magma. Yun yung pinakaunang series na in color. And base nga siya sa manga ni Osamu Tezuka, which is known for his work on Astro Boy. And if you wanted to dig deeper into Osamu Tezuka, he's considered the god of manga. So that's something that you could check on your free time. So yun, from that, and from 1966 nag-proliferate na yung giant monsters, giant heroes, and in some of the biggest franchises in Japan na naging inspiration to some of the things na kinalakhan natin ng mga bata tayo. So, sa pagbabalik ng Elitistang Weeboo podcast, let's talk about the biggest franchises or series under the Tokusatsu genre. So, antay-antay lang kayo. And we're back. So, sana tayo. So, with the proliferation of Ambassador Magma in 1966, may isa pang series that debuted on that year that makes a big impact onto the tokusatsu genre on TV. That's Ultra Q. And after Ultra Q, the Giant of Light was born. Ultraman. Yan, napakanta pa ako. So, Ultraman is a giant superhero na nagsimula noong 1966. It's basically a giant superhero from the land of light na pumunta ng Earth to protect Earth from giant monsters. So, it's basically a simple premise na super imaginative, especially on the suits, the monster designs and whatnot. And of course, maganda rin yung yung soundtrack niya, and so imaginative with the miniatures, the fights, yun nga yung monster designs. So it became a hit on Japanese television. So alam nyo naman, once na sumikat si Ultraman, sumunod-sunod na siya with 1967 with Ultra 7, your Ultraman Jax, your Ultraman Ace, and so on, Ultraman Leo in the 90s, the 90s trilogy, Ultraman Tiga, Dyna, and Gaia, and tuloy-tuloy pa rin siya hanggang ngayon with your Ultraman Triggers, your Ultraman Z, and Ultraman Taiga, to name a few. So it has over 50 years of history already, and there's no sign of stopping it since they are expanding onto the US. So if you go on YouTube, go to Tsubaraya Productions, naglalagay sila ng episodes doon ng older Ultraman series, the newer Ultraman series, and the movies as well. So if you want to dig deeper onto the Ultraman or in other Tsubaraya properties like Mirror Man, the Tsubaraya Production YouTube channel is the best way for you to catch on. So of course, 1966 Ultraman made a big impact onto the TV screens of Japan. So Toei, nag-isip sila ng ibang ibang approach onto the tokusatsu superhero. So on 1971, based on a manga, based rin to sa manga ng isa pang legendary na mangaka, Shotaro Ishinomori, they made Kamen Rider. So Kamen Rider is basically para siyang Ultraman pero pinaliit mo siya. So from kaiju or daikaiju na nilalabanan niya, it goes human size, and that's what we call a Kaijin. Kaijin basically means mysterious human or mysterious person. So that's your mutants, your uh this uh your mutants, your human-sized monsters, high flying, high kicking, henshin, with yan, transformation poses, cool bicycles, explosions, and yun. From 1971, Kamen Rider became one of the biggest franchise na yun, nagse-celebrate din ng kanyang 50th anniversary for now with Kamen Rider Revise. So, if hindi nyo pa napapanood yung Kamen Rider Revise, you could Google kung saan kayo makakahanap ng subs. And it's an interesting show to say the least, kasi parang dalawang episodes pa lang yun na ipapalabas niya, and there's someone to simp there. So if you're into simping, revise. So joke lang. So Kamen Rider 1971. Then another thing from Toei is 1975. So sabi nila, yun, masyado nang popular yung yung Kamen Rider. Gawa tayo ng isa pa. So, what if yung Kamen Rider, ba, nag-iisa lang siya na nakamotor? Why not gawin natin silang isang team? A task force, a Sentai. So, 1975, Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger was born, and the start of what we call the Sentai franchise. I know, sasabihin nyo na, ba't parang may kulang doon? Ba't Sentai lang yung sinabi mo? Kasi, Go Ranger and its succeeding series, Jakyu, Q, Dengektai, or Blitzkrieg Squad, was Sentais. They are just a team of superheroes that fights monsters. So, 1978 or 1975 as well, I'm not sure, Toei got into an agreement with Marvel to create their version of Spider-Man, Spider-Man. So yung Spider-Man is so different from its American counterpart na this version of Spider-Man has a freaking giant robot named Leopardon. So, dahil sobrang sumikat yung concept of a giant robot on a live-action Tokusatsu show, nung natapos yung contract with Marvel, sinabi ng Toei na, why not we incorporate giant robots onto our Sentai? So, the third Sentai series, Battle Fever J, that's the time na tinawag na silang Super Sentai. Super kasi dinagdagan na sila ng Super Robot. So, it started with the Battle Fever Robot, which is the first giant robot on Super Sentai. Sinundan siya ng Denjiman for its first Henkei or first transforming robot, and then in the year after that, Sun Volcan is not just the first team na puro lalaki, they are also the first Super Sentai that incorporate combining robots with the Sun Volcan Robo. I forget the name of the robot, but yun, Super Sentai has been ongoing since 1975, and flash forward to 1992 or 1993, Zyuranger, the Dinosaur Sentai, was adapted into American audience as Power Rangers, and the rest is history. Concurrently, Power Rangers and Super Sentai are being shown here in the US, and I know there's a debate on which is better, but kahit ano naman yung i-enjoy nyo, as long as na-enjoy nyo yung mga bagay-bagay at hindi kayo nakakasakit ng kapwa nyo, you do you. Okay? So, marami pang nangyari with Toei kasi gumawa sila ng Kamen Rider, medyo dark ang story niya. Sentai was more of the light-hearted side. So Toei in the 80s think of something again. Why not we create a tokusatsu series or a tokusatsu hero series na more into the teenagers or the more older demographic. So with 1982 they created the space hero Gavan, which is the start of the Metal Hero series. So the Metal Hero series is yun nga more focused on a more older demographic kasi like kids and early teens, yun yung naging market ng both Kamen Rider and Super Sentai. So why not dagdagan natin yung demographics natin? So Metal Hero was conceptualized and those target a much older maybe late teens or late teens na audiences. So Metal Heroes was the third Toei Tokusatsu hero franchise, pero by the 90s or late 90s the Metal Heroes stopped, and pero the concept or the tropes of a metal hero got incorporated into the succeeding Sentais and Kamen Rider. So parang hindi rin siya nawala, and we also have a renaissance or a rebirth of the sections and Shider, the next generation. So hindi natapos dun yung Metal Heroes because bumabalik sila on specials, movies, and some of the tropes are being incorporated into the Sentai and the Kamen Rider. So those are some of the popular tokusatsu franchises na you could watch online, or you could find subtitled versions online. So creative googling lang guys. So andun na tayo. So here are some other franchises that you could check out if you wanted to dig deeper onto the tokusatsu franchise, or you wanted that niche, mas niche pa sa niche ng tokusatsu mainstream. So you could start with Garo. It's a more mature series of tokusatsu heroes na more into the fantasy side. Meron siyang nudity doon, so that's something that you enjoy. You can look for the Garo series, and there are like several series na pwede mong panoorin. The franchise started 2005, so pwede mo siyang mahabol, or it's like it has a more approachable na entry except from your Super Sentai, or sa Super Sentai na like it has like 30 or 45 years of history. Ultraman has almost 60 years of history. Kamen Rider has 50 years of history. Garo is just from 2005, so that's something that you could enter on a much easier way. So another one is Toho, the production studio behind Godzilla. Oh my god, di ko na. So Godzilla is one of the biggest film franchises in Japan. So, and if you're more familiar with the 2014 movie, that's the legendary Godzilla series na medyo nag-gain naman ng traction in the West, dahil marami namang giant monster fans dito. Para naman taga-West ako, no? Na marami namang fans in the West, kaya medyo nakakasabay siya. Hindi man siya nakakalagpas, but it's somewhat on the same level of the MCU. So yun yung medyo nakakalabang franchise ng MCU in regards to cinematic universes. So, Garo is one na pwede mong pasukin on a much easier way. And also, you can watch like the Seishin series. Toho made somewhat their version of the Super Sentai back in 2003 until 2006. So they made like 3 series of that. That's Grand Zazers, Justerizers, and Caesar X. So may mga episodes ka namang mapapanood online. Just Google it. So if you want something different from the Sentai and the Kamen Rider, you can watch the Seishin series. Ang dami pang tokusatsu movies and series na pwede mong panoorin on your convenient time. There are ways for you to watch it legally. Tokusatsu, Shout Factory, Milk Creek has released some Ultraman and Kamen Rider and Super Sentai stuff that you could buy to support. Toei has the Tokusatsu channel na meron din sila, pero as of the moment parang the first 2 episodes lang yung sub from all their series na nilalagay nila doon. But in time baka if we pressure them enough, they would release like subversions of their Tokusatsu shows. So bakit ba natin gusto, or ba't naging appealing sa akin yung Tokusatsu? Ano ba? Because of the history. Kasi I've been fascinated with the history of these special filming techniques. Pag nanonood tayo ng like a lumang movie, like an old Godzilla movie, or nanonood tayo ng isang lumang episode ng Kamen Rider or Super Sentai, parang natatawa tayo on how cheesy or how corny the effects is. Kasi like, okay, nasanay tayo on CGI, a much better effects, pero ano ba, kasi parang napaka-fascinating nung kwento and history niya, kung paano back in the 60s, paano tayo makakapag-film, or how can we film a giant monster attack? How can we film someone breathing fire? How can we make this character fly over the city? Paano natin siya mapagmumukhang higante na parang andyan lang talaga siya, or parang totoong nakuha natin siya ng video, or nakuha natin siya ng sound. So Tokusatsu has been a really fascinating thing to dive into, because yun, stories of ingenuity, stories kung paano nila pinagkakasya yung mga budget nila, kasi hindi naman malalim yung mga bulsa ng mga producers nun. So parang yun yung naging pinaka-appeal sa akin nung Tokusatsu, is how they would make this fantastic thing be caught on video. Paano mo maipapakita na dito, kunyari dito sa park na to, biglang may darating na giant monster, aapakan ako at mapipisat ako. How can we do that? Wala naman tayong mahahanap na giant monster sa panahon natin. Hindi naman totoo si Godzilla, hindi naman totoo si King Ghidorah, hindi totoo si Gamera. So how can we evoke that feeling na we have shot, or we have made a video of a giant monster attack, or a monster attack, or paano natin ma-disintegrate yung tao on a cheap way, na hindi natin talaga sila babarilin or whatnot? How can we show awesome action pieces, awesome poses, awesome costumes? Parang yun yung naging pinaka-appeal sa akin nung Tokusatsu. Not just the history, but the ingenuity of it as well. So final thoughts, or before we wind down onto this crazy talk about the tokusatsu genre. So it's actually somewhat of a primer kasi I'm thinking of doing something, uh, so para meron akong guest uh, on the next episodes, kasi it's something na pwede natin gawin on a month. So starting October, I'm thinking of doing what I call the Metal Hero October, or Hero Vember. So basically, ang bala kong gawin doon is I'll invite some of my friends sa Facebook, kasi doon lang naman ako may friends. There's like 400 of them. Siguro naman may papayag na na makipag-usap sa akin about Tokusatsu, dahil yun din naman yung mga hilig nila. So I have two na napapayag ko na manood ng ilang episodes ng some Metal Hero series na nasa Toei Tokusatsu channel. So ang bala kong gawin ngayon is talk to them about their beginnings as fans of Japanese pop culture. So isang friend ko is into the Tokusatsu, pero mostly Kamen Rider lang yung pinapanood niya. So papapanoorin ko siya ng Gavan from 1982, the first two episodes, dahil yun lang yung sub sa uh, sa Toei Tokusatsu channel. So let's talk to him nung history niya, kung bakit niya nagustuhan yung Tokusatsu and the Japanese pop culture and stuff, and get his thoughts kung ano yung thoughts niya on the Metal Hero Gavan. Then I have another, so it's Gavan. Then ang RoboCop ng Japan, si Jiban, papanoorin din natin siya dahil available siya sa Toei Tokusatsu channel. Then balik tayo ulit sa 80s with 1983's Space Sheriff Sharivan, with another special friend of mine na fan, or I think he's the biggest fan of Sharivan na nakilala ko. So let's just hope na mag-align yung mga schedules namin, and that would be more awesome content for the Elitistang Weeboo podcast. So as we wind down with this crazy talk about Tokusatsu and what's the future content na naisip ko for this podcast, thank you for being here, listening with the podcast. I'm actually recording it using a new microphone. I'm still using my smartphone to record and stuff. Sana malaman ko kung paano ako ba kapag remote interview using this stuff, kasi the last time parang si Tito P pa yung pinag-record ko, na kahiya. So ayun, if may alam kayo, reach out nyo naman ako sa socials. We can be found on Facebook at facebook.com/elitistangweebpod. Twitter and Instagram, my personal Twitter in Instagram at elitistangkebs. May Twitter din yung podcast at Elite Weebs, and if you want to talk business or gusto akong sabihan na huminto na from this stuff kasi I'm just rambling a lot and wala kayong nagigets, you can email us at elitistangweebpod@gmail.com. Lahat ng links nasa description, so if hindi nyo naintindihan yung sinabi ko, basa-basa na lang sa description ng episode na to. So with those out of the picture, I wanna end this with ano ba? So wala akong maisip na witty kung paano tatapusin to. Basta watch out for Metal Hero October or Metal Hero Vember, dahil it would be an awesome conversation about the things we love the most, which is Tokusatsu. So hanggang dito na lang muna tayo, guys, mga dudes, mga dudettes. This is Kevin signing out from the Justice Open Studios, and let's catch you up, or magsama-sama ulit tayo sa susunod na Elitistang Weeboo podcast. Z.